That would have been very sad. Okay, so we are recording. We are live. We're good to go. Welcome to today's webinar hosted by Travefy Academy with 4 amazing panelists who I'm really excited to introduce here. But I'm just so excited for this webinar, for every one of you to take some time out of your day to join us. And first, just really quick to introduce myself in case there's anyone new to Travefy Academy, is I'm Stephanie Grice and the Marketing and Education Coordinator at Travefy. And I'm going to introduce our panelists in just a minute. But one thing that I want to talk about really quick is just, a little bit what to expect today, and then from Travefy Academy as well. So this webinar here today, we really just wanted to gather a panel of experts from the industry, just to talk about this past 12 months. I mean, we're living in crazy times. We know that. And there's things just going to keep changing. So we really want to take some time just to talk about what we've seen the past 12 months, but what we're expecting for 2022. So that's really what we want to do here today. And another thing too to mention is with Travefy Academy, if this is your first time joining us for a Travefy Academy webinar, we've designed Travefy Academy to just be a free educational resource to further Travefy's mission to power the success of travel professionals. So even though we do have some Travefy users in our panelists right now, shout out, we don't talk about Travefy as a software during this. It's all purely educational for you. So you can always find other Travefy Academy webinars at academy.travefy.com as well. But this webinar right here, it is being recorded. So you'll find it on our YouTube channel afterwards. Email us if you need it, if you can't find it. But also if you go to academy.travefy.com, you'll be able to find it there as well. And then another thing to mention too is feel free to use the Q&A or the question box in Zoom. I'm hoping that we have time for a Q&A. We're going to try really hard. But just if you do think of something, put it in there and we might be able to fit that in at the end and do a Q&A. But with all of that being said, I now want to announce our panelists here today and introduce you to all 4 of them. So we first have Angela Hughes, who is owner of Trips and Ships Luxury Travel. We have Daniel McCarthy, who's editor-in-chief of Travel Market Report. We have Luigi Nappo, who's CEO of VIT Travel. And we have Christy Shafer, who's Senior Vice President and General Manager of Allure Travel and MTravel. So welcome, everyone. We are so excited to have you. Thank you. Excited to dive into these questions, and we have a lot. So I'll dive into them, but really quick to mention how we're going to do this. So with this formatting, we're just going to go through different questions ranging from, everything from 2021 successes and lessons learned to what we can expect and how to get ahead of the travel in demand curve of 2022, because it's already happening. It's going to get crazy, but in a very good way. So, how can we get ahead of that? So that's kind of what we're going to talk about here today. All kinds of topics around that. So also panelists, feel free as well to chime in as I'm going with this. Oop. Okay, sorry, had my thing there. So with that being said, I know that was quite the mouthful, but I want our panelists to talk now. So I'm going to start these questions off. So question number 1. All right, so here's the first question is, what were some of the biggest areas of progress or success in getting the industry moving towards recovery from your perspective? So Daniel, I'm actually going to start off with you here. I know that you've seen a couple different areas for the industry, starting with TSA passenger volume upticks and also those cruise line updates. So can you share some of those with us here today?
Yeah. So first of all, I want to say hello, everybody, and thanks, Stephanie and the team for having me on the webinar. But to dive into it, I mean, I'm sure everyone who's been involved in the industry remembers sort of March and spring of 2020 and how low that TSA passenger count was. I think we were below 100,000 passengers in the U.S. at one point for passenger throughput. And that number, we've seen that number come up, and that's the number I'm going to continue watching throughout 2022. We know there's laggards in segments in travel, including international travel is still sort of slower on the recovery than domestic, and corporate travel still has a long way to go. But that's going to be something I'm going to be watching. But I'm sure advisors out there have heard demand from their consumers. They've seen the headlines of sort of these bucket list trips, these world cruises by these luxury cruise lines selling out. We know people are very anxious to travel. It's just going to be a matter of when, if not if, I think.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. And yeah, and it'll be so interesting to see. And I know we're going to talk about that a little bit further along, is just really watching what's about to happen and seeing that. But also, Christy, I want to go to you as well, because I know that you've seen a change in collaboration within the industry, just from associations and also to the agency level. So what type of progress or success are you seeing?
Absolutely. I think, and again, I echo what the other panelists have said as well. Thank you so much for having us today. We're really excited to be here. And I think we're all looking forward to a really bright future in 2022. But you're right. I think one of the successes I feel like I've seen within the industry in this last year is just all the collaboration efforts that have come out of this. And that really ranges from anything as simple as just our own advisors kind of collaborating together on their Teams chats or in their Facebook groups, or even outside with suppliers, and really trying to come together and generate new ideas on how to spark that business, or how to get ahead of the curve, or how to just kind of go with all of the changes that we're kind of seeing in place. And then the other thing in terms of collaboration, I would say, is just a huge shout out to ASTA, who has and all of the advisors that have really joined ASTA and really being the voice for our industry. I think that has been such a huge win for our industry, and the voice that they've given us in Washington and just throughout the media, and really highlighting our industry and all the efforts the advisors are putting forth this past year. So collaboration, I think, has just been a huge win if I look at the past year across the board.
Yeah. That's something that I've been hearing too, just talking to different advisors on any topic. It's all just, especially with suppliers, working with suppliers and them connecting with advisors, a lot. So yeah, totally agree with that. And that was a good way to just start off this conversation of, just looking at the big picture of what is the success. I mean, now this is in year 2 pretty much of, knowing that there's a pandemic happening, there's something that we need to be aware of. So all that, but I want to look forward now to 2022, which is a couple weeks away, still so crazy, is what are the positive signs for restart that that you all are watching for 2022? So Luigi, I want to start off with you on this one. Is, since your business is in Europe, what are you seeing for 2022? I know most of us are in North America, but Europe is and also just say all the people in North America are ready to come to Europe and enjoy all the time. Yeah. So what are you seeing for next year?
Now, first of all, thank you for having me today, and hello from Roma. Actually, here is 8 p.m., so it's in the evening. I can say that first of all, if we look to the history, everything has a start, everything has an end. So I'm quite confident for the future, for the next year, because we have seen things that start and ends. So the big problem I see is the situation is very volatile, because in the past the business, our business has been basically stable, with some big shocks represented by, we remember all, terrorist attacks or natural disaster. But generally speaking, it was quite easy to have a forecast with new customers, new countries, millions of people starting to travel from the beginning. Like we can imagine China, India. So lots of people appear on the market. So in the past, the trend was always positive. So we can say 1% or 5% more each year, but it was easy to forecast. Actually, the big problem is that we cannot give any realistic forecast for the next months. And this is the main problem. I'm quite confident, as I said, because the big problem of the inconsistency of the rules, of the legal requirements to access countries in Europe, we have been working to have one rule, to have these rules much more consistent. And actually, with the Green Pass and all these kind of things, it's easier to access Europe. So I'm quite confident, because these things will end, but also because we are learning to live with this situation as well as the customers. So
yeah.
We're sure we will have a good news and the good results for next year.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And that's the perfect thing is we're really learning how to deal with it. And I know that's something that we're going to talk a lot about in here as well. But Angela, how about for you? What positive signs are you seeing? And I also know that you just got back from France too. So it is exciting. We're going across the pond.
Actually, I mean, a couple of things that I've seen. I've been to 17 countries since October of 2020. I do think some countries are more difficult than they were a year ago, with more tightened restrictions, etc., than they were a year ago in the height of things. With that being said, I feel like the world is moving and traveling compared to what I was seeing a year ago. Planes are full. I mean, a year ago, I had my own row. I never needed to upgrade. One thing that I am seeing though is really short booking windows. I literally had a family of 8 call on Tuesday that were canceling an Egypt-Israel trip because Israel's closed. And now we're rebooking them a safari for next Tuesday, or Antarctica if I can find space. I mean, it's really coming down to where I can find space, but on a normal given year, I would have pretty much taken a gun to my head if somebody called me today and said, can you find me safari space for next week? So the thing is, things are moving, but kind of not moving. I mean, we really took a hit with the Omicron and with Delta, and then Delta, we kind of made some improvements and we got going again. And then the minute the Omni hit, I felt a 2020 panic, and I am panicked because we have millions on the books right now and a lot going for 2022. And I cannot feel confident that people are going in 3 weeks places, you know? And so there's that self-doubt and fear, but also momentum of that pent-up demand and people wanting to spend and still book. But I can't feel confident. Even today with my clients arriving in Peru for the holidays, I'm like, just on pins and needles, like, you know, are they gonna have issues when they get in? You just can't feel 100% confident. Although once you get there and you can pass the QR code and all the garbage that they make you do, it's amazing. It's amazing to be traveling right now.
Yeah.
And that's the message I think we need to continue to get out, right? Is just tell people that, you know, yeah, there are some hurdles that you have to overcome, but it's doable. You can do this. And like you said, Angela, once you get there, people are just, our customers are telling us they are just having fantastic trips. And, you know, it's just getting over that hump and getting their confidence level up, and kind of, I think, part of the advisor role now is changing. It's not just educating them on the destination, but truly helping them or being that advisor from the minute they walk out the door until they come back or arrive back at home, and all of the in-between that happens with all of that as well.
What I've seen actually is that people is going from frightened because of the situation to be annoyed because they can travel. If you want to go to Europe, you can go. But many people, they give up because they are annoyed of all this procedure and the change. Every day there is a change in your rule. And okay, you can follow the rules, but the people, I think that the main problem is annoyed to be and to listen all the alerts, and you have to change, you have to do this and this. So in our role as a travel agent is also to guide the customers and explain that if they want, if they are a little bit patient, they can travel without problem. We have flights, actually, the hotels are open. Months ago, the big problem in Europe was the lockdown. So you go in a place that the restaurant is closed, the museum is closed. Actually, everything is open. So the only problem is that you have to follow certain rules and be patient. This is but the people, they are annoyed. I understand the feeling.
Just the constant changing, yes. And we actually will talk about that here, the next question here. But one thing that I did want to mention is, Daniel, I wanted to point to you because before this webinar, you mentioned how, you really are looking forward to around February 2022, just to really see when those school breaks are happening. And as you mentioned before about, following what is TSA seeing and how many passengers are seeing. And it will be really interesting when those school breaks start happening, and we'll see, like, is this picking up, and how big is it picking up right now?
Yeah, no, I think we're going to be it's going to be a pretty healthy in February for travel. I think the question remains now is what the destinations are going to be. Are people going to be brave or comfortable enough to go to these exotic destinations, these more international destinations, or are the US destinations that have sort of been the winners since 2020, which is, the national parks or Hawaii or any other sort of major US destination, are those going to be the heavy winners from the family travel season? So I think those are the questions. I mean, just speaking of Omicron, I think the news this week was that, this might peak in January. So hopefully by February, again, I'm not a scientist, but hopefully we're past this by February.
Yes, please. Right? Yeah. I hope. Yeah. And there's so many different things. It's just ever changing. But that's the things we're learning how to adapt, all of us. And so one good thing that's came out of this, we know how to adapt very well. So the next question, this is kind of what we were just talking about, is this question is that, do you think that governments are finding a better method using tested versus travel bans, or what improvements can be made to the process? So Luigi, you've been talking a little bit about this. I know this is a very hot topic too, but since you're a DMC in Italy, you've had a different perspective with the changes to countries. So it's a little different than for us just going to different states, and we don't have to worry about anything, but to stay up to date with France, with Italy, how have you been adapting to those changes, and how are you helping travelers stay up to date with those changes too?
Yeah, no, from what we have seen, in the past, the government priority has been, of course, the government priority was not the travel industry, the travel sector, and I cannot blame their decision in the past, because the idea was to close the borders to protect the community. The European countries adopted a different approach 1 year ago, 1.5 years ago. So you can travel to France, but you cannot travel to Italy. Greece was opening, Croatia was opening, and other countries were closing. So this was a big confusion. Many people, they don't just go in a country, they have a multi-countries journey, and this was a nightmare. Also for inside Europe, from myself to go to Italy, to go to Belgium, Holland, it was a disaster. Actually, the European Union adopted a single method, a single process. So you can be sure that if you can enter in a country, you can enter also another country. It's clear. But with the Omicron, the situation is changing again. The situation is completely different, because now it's clear what you can do and what you cannot do, and how you can enter. For sure, what we have seen, that we don't have any country except at the moment Austria and Holland that adopted a lockdown, and all the governments, they reconfirmed that they will not adopt any lockdown again. And because we are going to the summer, to the spring, the situation will be quite better. I'm not a scientist, but for what we have understood, this Omicron it's defined mild, not so dangerous as the other one. So in Europe, the approach is to close, but to prevent, to close to be a little bit, to have some restrictions, but also only to prevent, not because there is a real danger, because in terms of deaths, unfortunately, but we have deaths, but not like 1 year ago. It's completely different. And I travel a lot. I was in France 2 weeks ago, in Belgium 3 weeks ago. I don't see any panic. I didn't see any problem passing the borders, honestly. So I'm confident that the people, we have to tell to the customers that it's possible to travel.
Yeah, absolutely. Amen to that. That's a good one. Christy, I know before this webinar, you had pointed out that travel bans are, they might not be the answer, that we're looking for. And just, the requirement changes that happen so frequently. So what are all your thoughts on, what do you think needs to improve and or that your agency has been seeing and with travelers too?
Yeah, I agree. I don't think travel bans are the answer, but I do think, though, we're getting to this point in this pandemic where we need to start learning to work with it and not against it, and not starting to close stuff down, but open the borders back up, but in a safe way, if that's testing, whatever that is, and just be clear about what those requirements are going to be so that we can set those expectations with our customers. It's so difficult on the advisor when these rules and restrictions are constantly in flux, are constantly changing, and now it's 24 hours versus 48 hours versus 72 hours. It's an impossible feat for an advisor to keep up on that. So I think what we're all advocating for is just consistency across the board, whatever that may look like. And if we can get, some type of a technology that we can all use across the globe, I don't think that that's probably realistic, but if we can just get a handful of ones where the travelers are able to use that will be infinitely better than the situation I think that we're in today, where it's constantly checking, and just the challenge for the advisor to keep up with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is one thing that we keep saying here now, that those who are not travel advisors like myself, is use a travel advisor because they can help you stay up to date on all of it. But it's also challenging for you too. So it's like we're all kind of almost in the same boat, but you're just paying attention to it all the time.
Yes.
Yeah. So just crazy times and all that. But so I don't know if anyone has anything else to add. Otherwise, I'll go to the next.
Yeah, no, just to say, the message is very important. How the governments and the community communicate is very important. 45 days ago, I was in Dubai for the expo, and how I was able to enter. I did a test. I took my flight. I arrived. I did another test, and I returned. And everybody, Dubai was full. There's no rooms available in the next months. So everybody is thinking that Dubai is open and you can do. But if you go to Rome or to Brussels or to Paris, it's just the same. You need a test, you board your plane, you arrive, and that's all. So the process is exactly the same. The restrictions are exactly the same. But the people think that going to Dubai is easy and possible, and going to Paris is quite impossible. It's just a message. How we communicate. Dubai is saying, come on, you welcome, you can enter, but they still want a test. Paris and Rome say, be careful, we don't know, but you can enter. So the way they communicate mark the difference. It's a big difference.
That's an excellent point too. And so that's a good way good thing to bring up on that. So another thing, and this kind of goes into kind of what you're saying here, is I want to talk about what segments in the industry do you see recovering the fastest or making the most progress? So Daniel, I'm going to start off with you on this one. So coming from the media side, you see so many different aspects of the industry. So what are you seeing recover the fastest so far?
Yeah, I mean, it's some of these answers is fairly obvious. It's the domestic destinations, and it's the ones that you can like Angela mentioned, you could have a tight booking window too, and sort of because we're seeing sort of this long-term outlook be pretty good for a lot of advisors these people have these bucket list trips they want to take, they have the money they want to use, and you have these shorter term windows where that uncertainty is sort of taken out of it when you know you're traveling in 2 or 3 days. So those kind of trips are doing pretty well right now, and I think they'll continue to do well too. And also something I've heard anecdotally from a lot of advisors is the luxury vacations, the bucket lists are still doing really well. These people who have the disposable income to travel desperately want to travel, and they're going to do whatever they have to do to figure out a way to travel, whether that's, you know, going to a different destination, returning to an old destination, things like that. So I think those are going to continue to work in 2022. I mean, what the industry sort of is most nervous about, it seems right now, because it is something a lot of advisors rely on, is corporate travel. We're not really sure of the timeline for corporate travel yet. We know that, you know, we've heard some airlines say maybe 2024 they're looking for it, while the outlook for leisure travel seems to be a lot more optimistic.
Yeah, no, it's a good one on the corporate travel. That is the one thing that, yeah, it is, that one's going to not seeing too much yet. On there. And, so yeah, really good points. And that's so true. That actually made me think of something else too, that you mentioned about, you know, the bucket list travel and anyone who's just, I want to go, you know, I'm going to make sure this happens. So that also brings in a good point I've heard from advisors, is just focusing in on the right client right now, which I'm sure advisors nodding your heads. Yes. Is definitely focusing on the right client. So do any of you have a story? Like Angela, for you, for example, I know we talked on the podcast last month about you started focusing on a different niche, but also just, you know, with the safari, but that also included new clientele a little bit too.
Yeah. So we really picked up the Africa beat. I mean, before that we were doing all of the big destinations, but right when Africa opened up last year, I made my first trip over there, and then really, I've been over there 7 times this year and headed back in January to the Egypt portion, but I'll drop by Kenya. You know, one thing we've got to do a better job with is educating people on the geography, because everybody thinks South Africa is Tanzania, and, you know, people don't know their geography. And so they need to know that, like, just because South Africa is closed or has restrictions doesn't mean East Africa, you know, is running quite nicely and has been for a year. And so, you know, we've got some educating to do on not only destinations, but like I said, you would never see such a short sell on Africa. And all of our African safaris this year have been really short time windows. And so that's a good place to grow. I do have to agree, if things were a little more uniform. I mean, it is tighter now in Tanzania than it was a year ago, where you didn't have to have a mask or a test or anything. Now they're doing all the restrictions and the testing, and it gets costly. You know, I spent $800 on COVID testing in August. So, you know, the thing is, like, I would love, they seem to care more around the world about the COVID testing right now than they care about the Vax card. And I'll give you an example. I didn't realize I was traveling with my son's card and not mine, because I had both of them, because I just returned from South Africa with him, and I thought I had both in my passport. And when I got to 3 destinations later, Canada, Prague, I landed in Frankfurt, and I'm like, where's my card? Thinking that I had left it in Prague, only to return home to realize that it was here. And luckily I had a copy on my phone, still could get the QR code in France, you know, but I was like, I wish the Europeans are so much further ahead than the Americans in terms of how we process data. And it would be great to just have one solid QR code to travel with. That would cut down on so much anxiety for people. I loved being in France, and you just have the QR code, and that's how it rolled. But, you know, we've got to level the anxiety. We've got to highlight destinations that are open and that we can sell. And we've got to continue to show the passion, because I have to agree with the panelists here that are saying, like, it's no different really to go to Dubai than it is to Tanzania. Like, you know, COVID doesn't know if you're in Tanzania or if you're in, you know.
True.
Right.
And it's such a great time to travel. I just keep saying that. So I think people are missing out on huge opportunities. I keep saying it's like the stock market crashing for me. Like, I'm buying low, or, you know, right now, just
get in now.
Yeah, it will be not easy for travelers to stay in Venice. And I was in Venice last year, and it was amazing because it was empty. The hotel managers in Venice, they will not agree with me, but I have never seen Venice so beautiful. And I don't think that in the future we will see Venice again. So it's also a great opportunity sometimes.
Yeah. Yep, I know.
For what I've seen, is one segment that will see interesting numbers, not today, but tomorrow, is the demand for incentive and motivation trips. And we started to see this with a couple of companies, Dutch and German companies we work with. This is a direct consequence of the long lockdown, of the remote working, and the remote work and the smart working. It's something that will be persistent, will stay for the future. So, but humans are social. So they will need a place and time to reconnect, to stay together. So the incentive and motivation trips will be a real need for companies, because they need their team to stay together, to talk, to socialize. So I think that this will be a big opportunity for travel advisor in the near future. And what we have seen also during this year, and I'm seeing also for next year, we have lots of people that choose to drive from Germany, for example, from France, but also flying and rent a car. And they don't fly, for example, in Italy, from Venice to Roma. We have lots of people that prefer to drive and or take a train, but lots of people, they won't drive. And the consequence is that all the cities, the small and beautiful cities between Venice and Roma, they will see much more visitors. For example, we suggest to stop in Ferrara. That's a beautiful little town north of Bologna. You will see Arezzo, that is in between Roma and Florence. So all these small towns, they will benefit from this trend. People, when the flight is less than 45 minutes or 45 or 60 minutes, this kind of flights will be replaced by driving. Maybe it's not sustainable, sure, but this is a trend. It's something that will stay for the next couple of years. The people, they feel more safer to drive.
Mm-hmm.
We might struggle is in more coach group touring. I feel like we're just not going to have 52 on a bus anytime soon. And so, that impacts everything from Disney Adventures to Globus to all of these. And that's an area that we'll struggle in. So.
Yeah. And we're seeing the trend in group travel for sure coming back, but it's private. To your point, private group travel is very hot right now. And I think, folks are trying to get together with their friends or their families, create that small private group, and then away they go. And I think you're right too about the incentive trip, incentive travel as well. And just with all the companies really trying to retain their employees and take care of their employees. It's such a hot topic right now. I think incentive travel is, it's a time to shine for incentive travel right now. If we, if you really play into, the wellness of the employees and making sure that they're taking care of them, companies are taking care of them, it's a perfect opportunity for travel advisors in that space.
I wanted to mention on that is because we're doing a small incentive group of 25 people, but the company, when we sat down with them, only elected to do Mexico. I mean, they are so concerned about what the liability will be if someone tests positive that, they wouldn't even jump over the border. I said, let's do Mexico. Originally, it started out with St. Lucia. We want to take everybody there, but not everybody's vaxxed. And then they get into such a ruckus of, vax and non-vaxxed employees and what to do if someone has to stay there, who's responsible for that. And so I think there's a big internal battle with people who want to have incentive groups, but they don't know how to handle it with all the logistics of the what ifs. And that's something that's going to probably drag on for a couple of years, not wanting to take risk because of the liability of what could happen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The other thing that we've seen with the incentive piece of that is maybe giving each individual traveler the opportunity to go on their own. So an allotment of money or funds for them to take, and then they have the ability to make their decision based on how comfortable they are to travel to a destination or if they want to stay locally. And I think that's a good win kind of for both sides.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's some good tips right there.
I just want to jump in there because what we mentioned before is the small group tours. And when I was speaking to tour operators over the past couple of weeks, what a lot of them mentioned was that was sort of surging pre-COVID. Like this desire for consumers to travel in smaller groups was sort of driving business back then. And now with COVID, it's sort of just pushed everything further in towards that trend, which is interesting too, because I know we talk about the pandemic and how much it's changed in the industry, but a lot of things are still remaining the same. Like I know the top European destinations for tour operators next year are still France, Italy, Greece, and Ireland, which are typically in the top 5 usually anyway.
Yeah, I mentioned, Danielle, I was going to bring that up actually, is how you said the 3 I's in the bucket list. So I like how the Ireland, Iceland, Italy. I feel like I've heard the exact same thing.
Yeah, I mean, we know during the lockdowns in particular, people started dreaming about where they wanted to go in the future. But we also know, especially with all this uncertainty, which we're talking about, for the past 40 minutes, is that people are also going to want to return to the destinations they know and the destinations they miss too. So, I mean, the typical destinations are I think when the borders and when these rules continue to relax, those are still going to be the winners.
Absolutely. So things that we're hearing, Luigi, we will be contacting you when we're ready. And then we'll be coming to visit. But also, party. Next Travefy Academy, it's a retreat. It's going to be awesome.
I'll work on it. In Parma.
Yes, sounds awesome. I love it. And the other thing too, though, is that incentive travel. So that's a good thing. So I'm actually going to go off topic here because I just thought of a good question just for all the listeners right now. Is there anything that either of you are personally doing or that of agents doing that they're focusing on? Like, is it incentive travel? Destinations wedding, for example. Destination weddings we know are going to skyrocket in the next couple of years. And I know people are super busy already with them. So is there any other types of markets or niches that you're personally focusing in on, or you've seen others focus in to just capture this travel that's the easiest to get, that's coming back quicker?
Yeah, I'm really throwing a lot of money. I mean, we did a lot with Africa last year, invested most of our, what we had left of discretionary funds into Africa, but I'm hitting and spending most of my money and time on the expedition market because that was trending before COVID, and I think it's going to be hotter than ever. I mean, we're just starting now. The Antarctica is just starting, and Galapagos, and there's a lot more itineraries. I feel like if that's your bucket, that's a really hot space to be in. So,
I think the other thing too that we've asked our advisors to really, get to know your travelers. They haven't been traveling for this last year. A lot of them may have gained a new hobby or a new interest or something like that. And when you start tying that together and start building that relationship with them, if they're now a wine lover, help create a trip to Nappo for them or to Italy or, wherever they want to go. Same thing with cooking, but how do you get those experimental, experiences woven into the travel and get the kind of the ideas starting to generate for them?
From my point of view, I think that the people, we have seen this trend in the last 3, 4 years, 5 years. People, they are looking for more authentic, small hotels. So 3 years ago, we started a collection of small, authentic and beautiful hotels, independent hotels in Italy, in France, in Portugal, in Belgium, hotels that have less than 59 rooms. And with the COVID, the attention to this kind of a project has been huge. In 2019, we had something like 100 agents, members of Tales Collection. This is the name of the collection. Actually, we have 700 agents, and they love the idea to find small boutique independent hotels. The problem with as an agent, when I find a small hotel, the problem is that I don't know if it's good, it's not good, if they pay commission. So we were considering to create a network of small, beautiful places where we can say, okay, this is beautiful, and they pay the commission. This wasn't the idea, and we expect something like 4 or 5 years to reach 1,500 members. And now in the last 12 months, we reached 100 hotels and 700 agents. So we accelerated a lot. And I think that because the agents and the customers, they are looking for this kind of accommodation, not the classic, beautiful, but old-fashioned palaces that are still beautiful, but people, they are looking for something more authentic.
Yeah, I've definitely been seeing that too, just from the advisors I'm talking to, just the suppliers, the types of travel being, just everything about that. And it all sounds so amazing too. And I don't know if there's anyone else that wants to add anything before I move to the next question here. Good. All right. Okay. Here we go. Keep them roll. We're on good time as well. So this is great. Okay. So I have 2 more questions, but this is kind of like the last one. The final question is kind of more of a fun one. But what specific areas of advisors business, what specific area of advisors business or marketing do you recommend advisors focus or start to strengthen in 2022? So Christy, I'm going to start off with you because I know that you also coach lots of different agents and your own business as well. So what are some of your specific areas that you're personally trying to look into, and others as well?
From a marketing standpoint and helping them?
Yeah.
I think the big thing for advisors, and we've kind of all touched on this a little bit too, is get out there and sell the destination. But in order to do that, I think it's really important for the advisors to get out there. So take advantage of the fam trips that are out there, the opportunities to travel right now. Just like Angela was saying, she's been out everywhere. And, once she's able to get out there, she's gained that confidence of those locations, how to navigate that. She can talk about that. And that is so powerful when you're selling that to your travelers. And then share that on social media. Get the message out there of how safe it is, how easy it is, what the experience is like, and that you're having a wonderful time. I think when we're talking to our advisors right now, we cannot stress that enough, is just get out there and get your message out about the experience that you're having.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah. And Angela, on that, I know I'm going back again to our podcast conversation of a month ago. It's perfect, very timely to this. I know that Christy, you mentioned social media, and Angela, I know you've been doing a lot of that. You've been really focusing in on social media as well. So what is your playbook, if you will, been looking like for marketing and keeping people updated?
Well, the playbook is probably more video for me. And I frankly hate myself on social media. I know people are sick of me. I'm sick of me. My kids are sick of me, but it's consistency every single day to win over the algorithm. And I think video just continues to be hot and, for any industry, if you want to keep in that algorithm and, stay at the top and build that authority. I mean, you can really create an audience with video. So I'm going to take that as my final answer today.
Love it. That is perfect. And anyone else have anything to add here?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, just to say, I really appreciate what Angela does. I follow on social media, and I really appreciate.
Oh, thank you.
I like it. It's what you are saying now is true, and you are doing what you are saying.
Oh, good. Now I'm feeling under pressure. I didn't realize people on here.
I was watching it too. You were just baking the other day in France.
Okay. Pressure now. That's the interesting thing. Like when I arrived in France, all of a sudden, I'm at the travel marketplace show, and all of a sudden I'm meeting people there are real people on the other side of these conversations that we're having. And it can be really powerful when you come together as humans,
yeah,
so to speak. And so it's exciting. It's exciting. And I was just speaking, just an hour prior to this, and I said, use those opportunities on social media for B2B marketing and strengthening relations. And that's going to be key for people to rebuild their businesses. You know, networking and doing more than just connecting with people, connecting and having real conversations. And then when you meet, like literally you feel like you've known each other for 1,000 years. And which is sad, because now I wonder what I put out there. You know, I kind of want to review my whole life. What did I say?
Oh no.
It's better to follow people like Angela and not the mainstream media, because you can really, it's true, because you can really understand what's going on. I was in ILTM last week, but if I need to follow something else, I prefer to follow people I trust more than the mainstream media, because you know it's to be there, it's to be with you or with people you know better and have your point of view. It's very important.
Well, I appreciate that. And I'm going to defer that to Dan, because I'm following Dan, the travel media. So what Dan says goes.
Yeah, from today I will do the same. I will do.
So one thing I wanted to mention, just because I think I have a different perspective, because I'm not sort of in the business technically, is that, I mean, think about your worth if you're a travel advisor right now. Both to your clients, know that the value proposition you provide is higher than it's probably ever been. And also to the other people in the industry. Like if you have been looking, if you're unhappy about something in your business, whether it's how you do your business, whether it's, you know, how you work with your colleagues, or whether it's your host or consortia, now is the time to sort of consider how you want to change moving forward and things like that. So my advice would be, if now's the time, we're probably sort of later in the game now because demand is coming back, but now's the time to make the changes in the business that you've been anxious to make.
Here. That is true. Yeah. There's been so much, whether it's, you know, software or getting your marketing set, social media. I mean, there's so much to do, and it's just going to get bonkers in the next few months, which is great. It's such a good thing. But with that, what I wanted to ask, the last question I really wanted to ask is, what are you toasting to in 2022? What are you most excited for? And I'll just let one of you go first. So feel free.
I think the more in-person stuff. I mean, I got a taste of it, I think, in 21, and to get back out there with advisors, with suppliers, with industry, you know, all of us in the industry, I think we just got such a small taste of it in 21. I just cannot wait for all the events in 2022 and to start reconnecting with people.
And I'm going to be toasting in Fiji with my kids, and I'm really just looking for downtime. And I'm so excited for, like, you know, the other side of the world to open up. But I'm just looking for some downtime. I feel like I've worked like a dog the last couple of years, and I'm ready to just hit, you know, what's left of Fiji. I don't even know what to expect these days. So.
I would add something about the travel agents, because I feel that this moment is really, really important for all the travel agents, all our community, because I remember years ago, I'm getting old, but I remember years ago when Delta cut the commission from 10% to 1%, everybody was saying, okay, travel agents are dead, we will disappear. And this never happened. And then again, the big booking engine arrived, and the booking.com and the similar. And again, we said, okay, travel agents are dead, they will disappear. No, but with this situation, I like to speak with the people, with the customers, with the friends. They really want the guidance of travel agents. So it's more like a concierge or service, and guide the customers, and not just placing a booking on behalf of them. So I think that this situation, sometimes from bad things, we have good things. For travel agents, this is a great moment, because the people, they are now at last recognizing the rule and the importance of the travel agent's guidance. So for the next year, I think that our community will see lots of good things. Business is changing and in a good way for us.
Yeah. I'm excited to see what happens with the industry. We very much been through the worst of the pandemic. We know more variants are coming, but I don't think we're ever returning to how bad things felt in those first few months. And I'm excited about what's to come. I think there's a tremendous amount of demand. I think there's a tremendous amount of talent, not only just in the industry now, but people who are very anxious to come into travel. And I think it's going to become very, very exciting over the next few years with new products, new destinations sort of trending, with new people to talk to. I think it's going to be a very exciting time for everybody.
Absolutely. Yeah, that all is perfect. We have so much good stuff to look forward to. It's so exciting. It's so great.
Year.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Again, we learn to adapt now. We know how all of you have been saying, we pretty much know what, when new things are going to happen, and we're going to have to be flexible, but we know how to handle most things now. So that's a good thing. But that was really all. I know that we did have some questions, and I apologize if we didn't have time to answer them. I know we could be here all day talking about all the exciting things of 2022, but I just want to thank our panelists again. Thank you so much for taking time to chat with us. There's been so much great insight and just so many good nuggets of good quotes and inspiration and positivity going into the next year. And thank you everyone who's listening as well. We really appreciate you joining us, and it's pretty crazy, but we'll see you in 2022. So thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Bye.
And
Thank you.
Bye.